Hello, everyone, and welcome to the American Canadian School of Medicine webinar. My name is Christine, and I am the Canadian Enrollment Coordinator here for ACSOM. Some of you might recognize me or have, seen me before on your webinar screens or done a one-on-one with me. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your evenings to spend it with the American Canadian School of Medicine. And just before we get started, I'm actually just waiting on another folk to join. So as we get started, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Let me know where you're calling from today. Let me know where you're at in your medical journey, if you're still finishing up your undergrad, if you are ready to apply to medical school. That helps me just see where our guests are at and tailor the content accordingly. So for myself, I am located in Peterborough, Ontario. So for those of you that are in Canada, you might know that it is a smaller town east of Ontario, so kind of halfway in between Toronto and Ottawa. Okay. So tonight's webinar, one moment, please. Okay, so unfortunately, our special guest, Sandra Banner, has experienced a bit of a house fire this evening. So I was just on the phone with her before we joined. That's why I was a little late. And she won't be able to join us this evening. But I'm hoping that my colleague, Dr. Padmos, who is the former colleague, he was the, sorry, just give me one moment, folks. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Philip. As always, it's so nice to see you here tonight. I'm just sharing the link with my colleague, Dr. Padmos, who is he was the former CEO of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons. So he's a great person to speak to about all of this. So just give me one moment. I appreciate your patience here as you bear with me. It was literally at 7 o'clock I heard this. Okay. Oh, fantastic, Karen. Nice to see you. Okay, my apologies. I got everyone in and we are ready to get going. So tonight we are going to learn more about practicing medicine in Canada. And what you just saw is how adaptable we all have to be kind of under pressure and in a work environment. I'm here to tell you a little bit more about how ACSOM will get you to practicing back in Canada, which I know is the #1 question that a lot of students have when they are applying internationally. Will I be recognized as an international medical graduate? Will I have the proper credentials to be a successful residency applicant in Canada? And that is definitely a reasonable concern and definitely something that you should be asking. But it is no longer as difficult as it might have been a few years ago. So that's really great news for all of you who are pursuing alternative pathways to medical education. I know it can be a bit competitive here in Canada, and that's why ACSOM wants to provide you with all of those pathways that you need to be successful in order to come back home. So I will just give a brief overview of the American Canadian School of Medicine, and then we will get into hearing about the pathways that prepare you to come back home. Okay, so first you'll hear a little bit more about the ACSOM advantage. And we think that we are not only an exceptional advantage in terms of your medical education in the Caribbean, we think we offer a lot in terms of providing you an exceptional alternative to the Canadian medical school process. So instead of on average waiting for 3 attempts to get through to a medical school in Canada, instead of maybe retaking the MCAT a few times and maybe not being super happy with your result, we are an exceptional alternative waiting for the Canadian medical school admissions, because on average, as I mentioned, it takes about 3 times, and it can be quite competitive. I believe a few years ago, 12,000 students applied for about 3,000 spots. So we are here to offer you the advantage that will help you come back to Canada. So my colleague, Dr. Padmos, just joined, and he will take over a little bit later to chat about the pathways back to Canada. So I'll get into the advantages. Firstly, you get to study on this beautiful island. We are located in Dominica, which is a beautiful agricultural island. Dominica is home to about 70,000 students, and it's a wonderful place to do your medical education because you really do get to focus in on your studies, on making sure that you can become the best physician that you can be. And in this, in our beautiful campus that you get to study in, we do have small class sizes of 10 that are led by physician tutors to ensure your personalized learning. So we cap our class sizes at 10 students, and it is a kind of a flipped classroom approach. So you are communicating with your fellow peers as well as your physician preceptor, that you work collaboratively in this small group setting so that you can feed off of each other, you can learn from each other. And we just find that the studies show that you don't want to sit in a lecture and amongst 700 other of your peers and be taught and kind of talked at instead of being engaged with the material. So this is a great way for your to learn your content and to kind of collaboratively work as you would be expected to do as a 21st century doctor. We have beautiful state-of-the-art facilities, and obviously it's a beautiful environment, but it's so much more than just a beautiful place to be. We have state-of-the-art facilities, including sim labs, anatomy labs that you will have full access to as a student, so you can get the best education imaginable to enhance your applications to your residency and really prepare you for your clinical clerkships. We are also the only non-for-profit medical school in the Caribbean. So because of this, it allows us to focus more on top-tier education, including social and global and Indigenous programming, instead of, turning a profit or admitting as many students as we possibly can to the program, and then watching our students not be as successful as we would like them to be. So as a non-for-profit, we really get to be student-focused and make sure that our students are getting the best education possible. And in this is a social, global, and Indigenous programming. So we have a public health unit that our students will study. So that's really important when you're coming back to Canada and you can understand how to work with our Indigenous populations. This is a photo of our students on the island actually giving diabetes education to the folks in Dominica. So not only do we focus on how you can come back to Canada, but while you're in Dominica, we make sure that you are giving back to the island and to the people that are sharing their space and their resources with us. You will receive expert mentorship from our educators that are there to support your success. So we have a wonderful set of faculty that are on the island with you, and that's your physician preceptors that will guide your small group learning. And then we also have really wonderful visiting faculties that come from all over the US and Canada. One of the faculty members that you will have the pleasure of working with is Dr. Loy Wiley out of the University of Western Ontario, and she actually teaches the public health module and supports those initiatives on the island. We also had Dr. Upadhyaya come in for the reproductive system, and she is from the University of Calgary, as well as other professors that will come in from Yale, I believe Penn State, University of Wisconsin, lots of other great American institutions. And they are there to support you holistically. So in that small group learning, they really get to see who you are as a learner and work collaboratively with you. So if you have certain questions or needs, your faculty are there to support you the entire time. Now you might be wondering, okay, I've seen this beautiful campus, but I am wondering about more of the day-to-day. What is life at ACSOM really like? And I want to, it's easy to kind of talk about all the great stuff that you're going to get to learn and the things you're going to get to be a part of, but you also want to see it. So ACSOM is a smaller medical school. Right now we have a cohort of about 100 across first and second year and across our spring and winter intakes. So our July and January class, we have about 100 students total, and that really makes for a really nice cohort. They all get to know each other, they all get along really well, and they support each other through their studies. So this is at our orientation. This is one of our Caribbean night celebrations. So we do more than just study at ACSOM. There are some social programs. There's lots of ways to kind of try new food, immerse yourself in new cultures, and get you out of the books all the time. While that is your number one priority and it is the focus, it's also nice to take a break and kick back with some of your friends. This is a volleyball tournament that we held on the island against some local high school students. I do believe ACSOM lost, but that's okay. These gentlemen were very, very tall and very, very talented, but it was a good time, a good kind of bonding experience for everyone. These are just some photos that I got from one of our faculty's phone. So just some beautiful day-to-day shots. Our faculty went whale watching, which you can see the tail there in that photo. So there are things to do outside of your academics, although that is always the priority. So I'm going to chat a little bit about some questions you might have about your application. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and I will address them either in the Q&A or in the actually typing them out for you. So a lot of students, because the Canadian medical school system can be quite competitive, a lot of students, I find that they're self-rejecting. They'll say, well, this is my MCAT score and this is my GPA, and I just don't think I have as great of a score as I need. And at ACSOM, we take a holistic approach. So we consider your GPA, your MCAT score, your prerequisite GPA, your personal statement, your letters of recommendation, your resume, and how it works together to create an entire applicant, not just one sum of its part, not just your MCAT score, not just your GPA, but rather who you are as a person and what would make you a successful physician. So I always tell students, if you're unsure, just apply, because let us be the one that walks you through the process. Don't immediately assume that you might not have what it takes, just because that's kind of what's been driven into you from the Canadian system. So I'll chat a little bit more about our admissions process. So we do have some prerequisites. So in order to apply for our MD program, we do look at a completion of an undergraduate degree. You don't have to have a specific undergraduate degree. Any bachelor's degree is fine, but we do look at specific prerequisites. We look at 2 semesters of biology, 2 semesters of chemistry, 1 semester of organic chemistry or biochemistry, 1 semester of physics, and 1 semester of math. In order to be assessed, you submit your application with a copy of your undergraduate transcripts, or if you've already completed the OMSAS, you can apply using that as well. You submit your application. We also look at the MCAT score. So if it is not on your OMSAS, you can send me a copy of your MCAT score. And we look at your personal statement, your resume, your MCAT score, your overall GPA, and then we move you through to what I think is the most important part, into the interview phase. So that's where you will get to see, and our admissions committee learns who you are as a person. Not just what your transcripts look like, not just what you look like on paper, but who you are and what you can bring to ACSOM, and the strengths that you have, the characteristics that you have that will make you successful in medical school and beyond. So there's just a little bit more about our documentation. And another thing you might be wondering is, while I am on the island, will I receive support? And we have lots of supports for our students. So we do have our traditional student support services, which you might be used to kind of in your college or university. So we offer supports. We will help you with housing. So we support you through the process of finding your housing. We support you through the process of booking your flights, getting your travel visas. I think it was in April, we actually sent a message to all of our incoming class being like, flights are really cheap. You might want to consider booking now. So those are just some tips and tricks that you'll get. But while you are on island, you will also receive mental health counseling. We have supports for physical health. We have peer tutoring. We have extra support if you need help in a module. We have what you need on the island to make sure that you feel successful every single day to show up and give your best. We also have our fantastic financial aid department that I recommend every person meets with right after they apply to ACSOM, because they will walk you through how to apply for loans if you need them, or the Canadian professional lines of credit through the Canadian banks. They also do some guiding. So if you have a credit score that needs repairing, they will guide you through tools to increase your credit score. They walk you through the loan process and how to understand paying that back. So really great financial support that makes you feel confident in your decision and moving through your medical school and your loan repayment after medical school. You'll also get support from me. As I mentioned, I'm the enrollment coordinator, so I help you through the process of admissions, through securing your meeting with financial aid, through securing your housing, booking your flights until your arrival in Dominica. That's what you get, the full service from me. So that's a QR code that links to booking a meeting with me, my phone number, and my email. So please don't hesitate to reach out at any time if you have any questions. There are no questions that are too big or too small. And I am happy to help with anything you need. Okay, so the number one question, as I mentioned at the top, is will I be able to practice in Canada? So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Padmos, who can introduce himself and chat a little bit more about the pathway home and how ACSOM can prepare you for the pathway home.
Thank you. Can you hear me all right, Christine?
Perfect.
Okay. Well, my name is Andrew Padmos. I'm a hematologist, so I went to McMaster University Medical School. Actually, I was in the first class and sort of an experiment, and trained in internal medicine hematology, and I've been practicing in different types of and situations ever since. And I think that's one of the things I wanted to mention to you today, is that a career in medicine offers innumerable opportunities and directions for you to fulfill your ambitions and your inclinations as you build a career in this area. You could be a clinician, you could be a scientist, a researcher, you could be someone who works in far off locations because you like to travel and you like other things. So I really commend medicine as probably one of the most enjoyable and most extensive opportunities you'll ever come across. And I want to tell you that the situation in Canada for getting into medical school is very difficult. As you probably know, thousands apply to medical school in Canada at each of our 18 medical schools, and only a few are accepted. Now, that's be unfortunate. Canada relies on the importation of physicians from outside Canada in order to fulfill its medical workforce requirements, and we're not doing very well. So ACSOM and other schools in the Caribbean are actually forming a pool of Canadians who are studying abroad who we want to get back to practice in Canada. That hasn't always been the case. Until recently, most of the Canadian students in the Caribbean and in other offshore schools were doing their clerkship portion of undergraduate medicine outside Canada. They were making connections and networks in those other locations, particularly in the United States, and then they were facilitated to apply for residency training by which you obtain the opportunity to get a license to practice. Well, all of that's changing now because Canada is very short of medical practitioners. And so the provincial regulators who govern licensure of practice are opening their minds to more and different pathways to return to Canada. At the same time, ACSOM, I think, is taking the lead among offshore medical schools in that we are seeking arrangements so that our students in third and fourth year are able to do clinical clerkships in Canadian hospital settings. And when that happens, you will be able to audition for research for residency positions after graduation. And when you do a residency in family medicine or in a Royal College specialty, you will ultimately achieve the independent licensure in that particular province, wherever you would like to practice. So ACSOM is now at the forefront, I think, of a movement to bring more Canadians who take the step to study medicine abroad to return to Canada. So I'm going to stop here because I've said the two things I want to say. One is that medicine's a wonderful career, and two, that you should be confident that if you do go to ACSOM, we're going to do our best to make sure that you can practice in Canada if that's your wish, because we are setting up the clerkships and the residency connections that you'll need to make in order to stand beside your Canadian medical school colleagues who are actually doing the same thing, getting residencies, getting licenses, and setting up for practice in Canada. I'd be happy to answer any other questions when we get to the Q&A part of today's presentation.
Okay, do you want to speak on these provincial changes, or would you like me to?
You can go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So there are changes kind of in the different provincial governments. So as you might know, if you follow any of the match data, is that the quotas for our IMGs, our international medical graduates, which you would be considered since you did study internationally, they have significantly increased. So in the past, there were fewer positions for students who studied abroad. And in the last match, there were almost, I believe there was 950 seats for international medical graduates, which is up significantly over the last few years. And 87% of Canadians who studied abroad that wanted to be matched in the Canadian match were matched. So that is about on par with a Canadian medical school match rate. Sometimes in the past, because students would do their clerkships in America, they would build their networks there. They might have met a partner, bought a house, and settled down there. Now, it wasn't so much that they couldn't come back to Canada, it's that they weren't. They had really created their lives in different countries. So now that the pathway to come back home is so much stronger, you no longer have to worry about where you are attending medical school, but rather how to prepare yourself best while you are in medical school to meet the criteria to be a strong match candidate. So the quotas for IMGs have significantly increased over the last few years, and the match rates for Canadians who study abroad are very, very strong. There have also been shifts in match policies. So something that I think is really great in terms of yourself and the way you are positioned as Canadians who study abroad is you can actually apply for the residency match in both Canada and US at the same time. And if you do get matched in Canada, it automatically negates your match selection in the US. So that way you know for sure that you have received a residency position, and then you have a backup plan in the US just in case. Because we are on the World Federation of Medical Schools, and because we are accredited, which is 2 accreditations, you are able to practice in either the US and Canada. Our goal is to have you come back to Canada and help fill our physician shortage, but obviously the choice is yours. So that's a really great opportunity. There are also increased funding for IMGs. So the federal government, the provincial government have put forth further funding to support the international medical graduates to come back to Canada. So these are all very, very positive indicators that it's only going to get stronger and stronger and easier for Canadians to come back home. Another great change is in the government of Alberta. Before you had to wait a year if you were an IMG to match. Now you can apply for the match right after you graduate your medical education. So there are constant changes year over year. I spoke a little bit about the 2025 match results and how favorable they were for Canadians. There were a lot of vacancies actually in the second iteration, which I think is it just goes to show that there is more need than currently what we are able to fill. And I believe a lot of the vacancies were in family medicine. So there are more and more opportunities, as we're showing you through the CaRMS data, there are more and more opportunities for you to match back. So there also have been changes with the provincial licensing authorities. So now there are folks that have written their boards in the US, and now there is enhanced recognition of those boards to come back. Specifically in Ontario, now you can be eligible to practice in Ontario when you have the board certification. So as I mentioned, as I'm trying to really reiterate, is there are a lot of really positive changes happening with IMGs and Canadians who study abroad. So you no longer need to worry about the if, but the how. How are you going to come back? What school is going to be the right fit for you to get you there? What sort of qualifications are you going to look for? What sort of effort are you going to put into studying for your qualifying exams? What are you going to do extracurricularly to support your residence application? That is now more what you have to worry about than if you are able to come back to Canada. So the way our program works is years 1 and 2 are in your foundations of medicine. So that is your curriculum. That's when you're getting your module-based learning. That's when you're really learning about the systems, from homeostasis to attack and defense to the endocrine system, to all of the foundations that you need to then move into years 3 and 4, which are your clinical rotations. And as Dr. Padmos mentioned, we are working very hard to get those clinical rotations in Canada to support the ease at which you can apply for Canadian residencies and the network that you'll have to support your residency rate. You also, in our program, you write the USMLE Step 1 in year 3 and USMLE Step 2 in year 4, which prepares you for the Canadian, so the Medical Council of Canada's qualifying exams 1. One thing I've learned in the medical field is that we love an acronym. So that will prepare you for your MCCQE1s and your NAC exams. So as a Canadian who studies abroad, you have to write, everyone has to write the MCCQE1. But as a Canadian who studies abroad, you will also have to write your NAC exam, which is more of a simulation-based exam. Then you graduate with your medical degree and you apply for your residency positions. And as I mentioned, 87% of Canadians were matched in the 2025 match as well. So that's kind of the roadmap. And now we have our Q&A, and there is a question actually in the chat. We have Karen here, who is an American who is looking to apply to ACSOM. Is an American able to practice in Canada?
Well, the answer is yes. They are welcome to apply and practice in Canada. The important thing is the school of graduation, getting the MCC examination behind you, and then getting a work permit, which is actually very, very simple and straightforward and very quick in these days. So, yeah, no problems at all.
So a similar pathway as a Canadian would take.
Yes.
That is the work permit. Awesome. Are there any other questions for Dr. Padmos or I? These can be, I know we're talking a lot about the pathway home, but they can be anything about ACSOM or about being a physician. Dr. Padmos has a wealth of experience and valuable advice to share if anyone has any questions on that. Okay, well then what I will do is I will let you know that our applications for our January 2026 and our August 2026 class are open, and we are always accepting applications. We have a rolling admissions process, so we are always accepting applications for our classes. The application is free. So you can apply now, even as I mentioned, if it's just to see where you fall in the application phase, if you would be successful and what you might need. That's where you and I can work together to see what you might need if you don't feel that you meet all of the requirements. There actually is another question from Philip, if there is a timeline on when we will have the clinical clerkships in Canada.
We're in discussion with 8 hospitals at the present time, and it looks as if we'll complete agreements with some of them before the new year. So we're looking at having the first Canadian ACSOM students accepted into clerkship in 2026, and in 2027, I think we'll have quite a few.
That's awesome. And finally, just to reiterate, if you have any more questions, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you go, oh my goodness, I meant to ask this question and I forgot, please feel free to reach out at any time. And I know, unfortunately, Sandra couldn't join us this evening due to personal circumstances, but she is also a wealth of knowledge on the CaRMS match and on the pathway back to Canada. So if any of you do have questions about that specifically, please reach out to me. And she loves meeting and chatting with the students, so I can get something coordinated between yourself and Sandra to chat further about those options and just give you more confidence that you are well on your way to coming back to Canada if you choose to study with ACSOM. So I want to thank Dr. Padmos for his time tonight. We really appreciate hearing from him. And I want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your evenings to spend it with ACSOM and to learn a little bit more about how we can support you in your dream of becoming a physician. So please do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. We always run webinars a couple a month. So keep an eye on your email for any more interesting topics that you might be interested in. And I can't wait to work with you. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful evening. Bye, Dr. Padmos. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay. Take care, everyone.